Moving from Colorado to Wichita, Kansas. Let me give you kind of a backdrop of everything, what it's like here, what that process is like, and the trend I'm really seeing of a lot of people moving from Colorado to Wichita, Kansas. But before I get into all that, please like, comment, subscribe, share. I got a ton of videos out there about real estate, about Wichita specifically, to help you get a better feel about Wichita, about real estate. And then this recent trend that I've been seeing going on a lot, which is moving from Colorado to Wichita, Kansas. I'm noticing a repeating pattern here, whether it's from Denver, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, or some of the just areas that I've seen people moving from recently to Wichita, Kansas, and what's been going on here. And I got about 5 points to go over. It's not all inclusive, but just some things that I've seen trend wise, real estate wise, but then also give you some insight into what Wichita's like if you're considering this and what's going on there. I have another video called Living in Wichita, Kansas. And if you look at my YouTube channel and a lot of videos out there, I have a lot of content out there to give you some local insider expertise from not just the real estate level, but also the local level. Being born and raised here, lived here my whole life, but also traveled a lot to other places too. So I'm from Wichita. I know Wichita very well, but also have got around to the world enough to know that the world's bigger than just little old Wichita too. But basically, the first point I want to go over is that you can really get ahead here in Wichita. And what I mean by that is what I've been hearing from a lot of people looking to move out of Colorado, move somewhere else. And what I've been hearing from them is that the prices are just getting so expensive. They're just getting so high out there in Colorado. And a lot of you have equity, you have high home prices and that kind of thing, which is it's good from the standpoint of you're like, okay, I could sell and cash out, but then where do I go? Because now I got to buy some really expensive house in Colorado again. And a lot of times what people are seeing the solution is to not just look within Colorado, look to Wichita, Kansas, because if you look at our price points and size of homes for what you get, a $300,000-$400,000 house here in Wichita is like what $1 million house would be in Colorado, depending on where you're looking and that kind of thing. And I encourage you to go visit my website, start studying the market. If you see the links below, you can sign up for a free account with us. We're not going to spam you and ham you and all that other stuff that goes with that. We just really aim to provide an awesome digital online search experience, better than Zillow, better than Realtor, and support your local, Realtor here in Wichita. It's me and my team. Rico is a partner. I have Gwen, who's a VA. Beside that, I have a support network, but we have a very select, individualized, elite level of service for, a few clients on everything, just because we can't take care of everyone. There's 14,000 transactions that go on in our market in a year. And, we're looking to do like 100 of those. And so there's a very select clientele of people that we look to deal with, and relo buyers are one of our favorites, to be honest with you, on everything. But one thing I can say that I've been seeing and helping a lot of clients do lately is to sell their house in Colorado, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, cash out, come buy a house here in Wichita for 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, and actually get a bigger house. And all the things that are really important in life when you really start to assess it, like getting ahead from like, what's my house payment and what can I make, as far as the income compared to what my cost of living is. You really can make it in Wichita. And I kind of like to call Wichita like a little big town, because we have kind of a small town attitude and feel a little bit, but that's starting to change. And you get a lot more of that on the west side. East side's a lot more like a big city, but our, metro population size is about 600,000, to give you an idea of like the size of our city. It's not some little small town in Kansas where we all live on farms. We still have a lot of big city amenities and features and feel to it, to where there's plenty to do here. And what we've seen lately too is there's been kind of a civic pride development, kind of a like we got a flag on everything, and people are very proud to live here and really flaunt and put things out here. And I kind of consider Wichita a hidden gem of the US, because you can get ahead here, you could travel here, and it's really not that far from Colorado. Like if you have family and friends back in Colorado, if you want to go back and visit, it's not that far of a drive or a flight in order to make those visits back for family events or other things like that. And what I've been hearing from a lot of people that live in Colorado too, is they're like, we don't really go to the mountains, or we don't really do all that stuff that much. So it's like, what's the point of living here if it costs that much, if we're not even going to be doing those things? Maybe we need to look at a fairly similar city to live in, like Wichita, that has more of like the features that we're looking for, which kind of gets me into the next piece is like, we have a pretty laid back, slow, conservative, like wholesome lifestyle around here. Because one of the other trends I'm hearing from a lot of people out of Colorado is that, it's starting to get bad there, quote unquote, meaning there's just kind of some sketchy people hanging around, homeless people, things going on, that it makes it a little less desirable, especially people who have lived there for a long time and, have seen the development and the change of it all and see the prices, but then also some of the concern for quality of life and just all the things starting to go on there that they're not entirely liking, that they'd rather move and live elsewhere. And if you come to Wichita, come visit, for a week, come check it out, come for a weekend, see what there is to do here. If you need resources for that, I have them on my channel. I also run a Facebook group called Wichita Food and Booze, that highlights like a lot of our local culture, little local mom and pop places, also just different like, breweries we have, music events we have going on, concerts, venues, that kind of thing. We don't have mountains, we don't have lakes, that kind of thing, but we do have enough of a bigger city feel to have events and things going on. And it's kind of on a more of a, vintage heritage, like craft artisan, local events type of thing. Like we have an event called Open Streets ICT, where we shut down Douglas, which is one of the main like drags in town. And you just walk and bike, and it's a community involvement day, and there's vendors and different like merchants and artisan craft things and things like that. So there's cool community things like that going on around here. It's just a lot more of kind of that like down to earth, salt of the earth type of people that come here. And if you're looking at jobs, like we do a lot of manufacturing, a lot of healthcare. This is a recent one I've seen. If you do a lot of remote work, which anymore, a lot of companies and employers are going towards remote work. And if you could do remote work, Wichita's a really good city for doing remote work on everything. Just because, if you can work from wherever and you're centrally located time zone wise, you can cater to the East Coast, you can cater to Mountain Time, Pacific Time, what have you, just depending on that. Because anymore, at the end of the day, we're starting to see people going more towards remote work, because as long as you deliver the result, you show up, you do your work, you can really live and work wherever you want to in the US. And owning a home in Wichita can either get you ahead and you can start to build your wealth if you're a younger couple and start turning that over, get your starter home, and then just keep going in the market. Or if you're looking to retire and downsize, Wichita's a really great place to retire, downsize, get that slower pace of lifestyle, and cash out, find a home that you can retire in and live in, for the rest of your life, which is a lot of what we see around here too, is a lot of people who've lived in their houses for 20, 30, 40 years because it's an affordable price point. They like the neighborhoods, they like the house, and it's just a very good, quality of life living type of situation for them. Because the other side of Wichita too is that it's a very short commute time to most places. At the most, I would say the furthest thing away from you is going to be at 35, maybe 40 minutes on everything. And if you're from Denver, these big cities, you know how short that is on everything. So one of the problems you're going to have in Wichita for getting here is that you're going to have to figure out what to do with all this free time you have, because you don't have to spend as much time traveling to places, and you're going to have so much extra time. You got to fill it up with, activities, friends, family, things to do. I love to play pickleball. There's a lot of pickleball around here, and it's a very growing sport. And we have a lot of courts, and we're putting more courts in. And honestly, pickleball is a very good social community aspect, since, a lot of older people play, younger people play, guys, girls. It's a very socially inclusive sport. It's active, and you can play for hours and not even really think about it. And it's honestly a really good place to play pickleball. There's a lot of professional pickleball players here, depending on which level you're wanting to go to with everything. I might be a little bit biased just because I like pickleball so much, but that gives you kind of an idea of what the community's like. We also have really good schools, really good neighborhoods, communities, parks, etc., that kind of thing. So if you look into their school districts, I try to remain as objective as possible when it comes to those, not trying to promote, one school district over another on everything, because I think there's a need and a value that can be met at different levels depending on what you're looking for and what you can afford and what your goals are on everything. I think different school districts pertain to different people. I know 3 of the more popular neighborhoods are Maize, Andover, and Derby on everything. Goddard's got a good school district as well. A big thing in Wichita, I don't know if it's really something I'm not supposed to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it just because I think it's worthwhile to put it out there. But the Catholic community and the Christian community is a pretty big thing here in Wichita. Not pretty big, very big. And there's a lot of schools and parishes here that are ran for Catholics. And if you tied 10%, don't quote me on this, check into it yourself, because I got to be careful about like what I put out there information wise, because I'm a real estate expert. And some of these other things I put out there just from a general community knowledge thing, don't bust my chops if there's something I say that maybe is off or flawed a little bit, but I want to give you some insight into, what it's like here and some of the underlying cultural dynamics of here. But the Catholic community is a huge piece of Wichita, and there's a lot of parishes here. There's a lot of schools here that pertain to that, but it's not something I can like set up a home search for just being in this particular parish or this particular Catholic school district, or around this church. But there are a lot of churches and there's a lot of Christians around here. And if that's something you're looking for, like that gives you an insight into what the local community is really like. And, the public school systems are solid too. So I'm not going to tell you which one's better or take a stance on that. That's kind of up to you to decide and for you to be objective and subjective about, because you could argue a lot of different ways on that subject. But I know Maize, Derby, and Andover are three more popular neighborhoods that people are looking for from a public school system. But there are a lot of Catholic school systems that are also solid in quality too, that we can look into. And there's some different resources I can point you towards there, everything, because, really I deal with houses and real estate, but also understand how many all these things affect your decisions around real estate and those kind of things. And, I'd take more of a stance of like, I'm helping you to make the best decision possible. And I facilitate that service, that transaction, and that kind of thing. And I might have certain views, objectives, viewpoints that are different than yours. And that's okay if we view things differently, because ultimately in the day, like I want you to get what you want, not necessarily me to push my objectives and values and principles onto you. I want you to choose what you want to do on everything. And I'll give you the information. I'll facilitate the questions, the environment for you to make a decision. Yes or no, this is what I want. Because I know for a lot of people, that's the hardest thing for them to come around to and decide on, is like, what house do I want? What school district do I want? Do I want to move to Wichita, Kansas? And so hopefully this video is helping you to kind of assess what Wichita, Kansas is like, what that move would be like, what the transition is like on everything. And that kind of leads me to like the fourth thing I want to talk about, which is what I'm seeing a lot of people are doing is cashing out in Colorado, listing their house out there with either one of our preferred agents that we use within our network to make the, transition as seamless as possible, so that you list your house out there, sell it, and then you can either do a couple things. You can either sell it, have the cash, rent like an Airbnb from some of the local contacts I have here for like 2 to 3 months while you're getting a feel for the area, looking for houses, competing for houses on everything, and then kind of have your cash in pocket on everything while you're making the transition to Wichita. So that's one strategy we've seen that's worked. The another strategy we've seen that works too is sell your house in Colorado, but then negotiate like a 1 or 2 month sale leaseback, so that once you have your house under contract in Colorado, you can be making trips to Wichita, or we can be doing virtual showings here in Wichita and helping you assess like getting a house here in Wichita and what that's like, depending on where you're at, in the process. And a lot of people I talk to are 3 to 12 months out. We start the initial conversation. They start looking at houses with me, and then eventually when they're ready to go, like we're hot and heavy, providing that one-on-one service, doing video calls, writing offers, that kind of thing. And that's where the construction background I come from really helps, because I'm evaluating like the foundation, the roof, the major mechanicals, all the beyond the pretty things, like assessing the pretty things, but also assessing like, is this a fair, price for the house? What's the market saying? What condition is house in? And not just get enamored in, the emotion and the beauty of it. I take all that into account, but also it's like, we want to make a smart buying decision. So this is going to pay off for you over the long haul, or maybe you're going to live here for 3 to 5 years and then want to sell, or at least be in a position to sell from an equity position. Because ultimately long term, like I want your business throughout the whole like career of you buying and selling houses. And if you're not happy with me on the purchase and you buy a turd with me, like I'm gonna have to go try to sell a turd when it comes to listing it. So why would I do that to you and to me on everything? And that's just more of the long term approach I'm seeing to set up these plans for people. But that's kind of like, I have one example of a couple who sold their house in Colorado, cashed out, bought a house cash here, sending their kids to Catholic school. And because the way that's set up and you're tied 10%, and then you have private schooling paid for, the guy was like, I'm retiring, I'm done. Like, I'm selling my house in Colorado, getting a bigger house in Kansas for cash, sending my kids to private school through the Catholic school system, and I'm retiring, I'm done. So like, that gives you one example of someone that recently did that. But we have several people that I'm seeing a big trend of getting out of Colorado and moving to Wichita, Kansas, in order to get ahead and make smart equity moves within the market, to where it's not always like just staying within your state. It could be moving to a completely different state, because really you make moves in real estate, or you get ahead in real estate when you make the right smart moves. And sometimes that's an entirely different state, meaning like, it's expensive in Colorado, California, Arizona, Florida. Let's sell in these higher price states, move to a lower price state that's still quality, still has good houses, but then that way you can cash out on the equity you have, move to a bigger, better house in another state like Kansas, on everything that has a good quality lifestyle of living, has enough to do. And like, that's kind of how you can get ahead in life and make smart financial decisions, and still make it in real estate on everything. It just may take you to mentally, emotionally get to that state where like, I'm going to move my entire life to another state, another city, another location like Wichita, Kansas, that has a very affordable price point. Because that's definitely something that's getting harder to deal with inflation, is how much everything else costs you, including your house. And if you can keep your income the same, but then reduce your expenses by like moving to Wichita, not having to spend as much money on gas or time, like when you take those two things into account, like you can be much more profitable in Wichita. And a lot of people in Wichita are that way too. So they have more disposable income, they have more time, they have more leisurely activity. We do work pretty hard for the most part, but we also like to enjoy our family time, our social time, friends time. So we have some pretty good life balances when it comes to really assessing what's really important in life and what you're trying to do. And the fifth one, I think I kind of already touched on a little bit, but it's still very close to Colorado to travel back. I think it's like an 8 to 10 hour drive, depending on where you're going. Flights are fairly quick too. I don't think we have any direct Denver flights going right now. It'd be sweet if we did, because that would make this proposition even better on everything. But it's really not too far away. If you want to go back for holidays or special events or things like that, and then you can still make the most of being close to your friends and family, even though you're in another state, but kind of get ahead financially when it comes to things that matter. If you're looking to start a family, retire, that kind of thing, Wichita's kind of a deal compared to the rest of the nation. If you're looking for a deal in real estate, Wichita has a lot of deals compared to the rest of the nation, just because of not being known as much. Like, we're kind of a hidden gem, a hidden value within the whole landscape of the US on everything, being a bigger city, having those down to earth lifestyles, what our prices are for what you get, like the amount of house, the quality of house you get in Wichita compared to a lot of other places is like, it's unmatched, it's unheard of. And, I'd love to show you that if you go check out my website and look at some of those things on there. And I could set you up on a property alert drip so that you can start getting some houses to check out. And then we could be there of service, from a personalized serviced approach, not from this pushy, scammy sales approach that it's kind of old school and doesn't work anymore. We're a lot more community oriented, service oriented on everything. So sign up on my link below, sign up for an account, start looking at houses. I or my team will reach out. If you just respond, we'll set you up with that for a long-term situation. Then when you're ready to go, you say like, hey, I'm ready to go. And that's kind of how our process works for everything. So kind of creating like our own little Zillow realtor.com, but better on everything. And if we can do anything to help you out, or you want any more information, please check out some of my other YouTube videos. Reach out to me directly through my website or through my team. Plenty of ways to get a hold of me. But I appreciate you watching as always. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Please, if you know anyone else that would really benefit from this video, please let me know, and or send them this video, and we can kind of just go from there on everything. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you soon someday. See ya.